Welcome back, Tales from the Long Box. Have you ever tried to map out the entire Marvel Universe? It's a daunting task, isn't it? That's what I'm tackling in this series. We're going to explore every major crossover and event in chronological order, starting with Sue and Reed's wedding way back in 1965. This is part 1, covering 1965 to 1985, and I'm going to break down every single one of them. So grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's dive into the Marvel timeline. And if you don't want to miss any future parts of this Marvel history lesson, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Alright, let's get into it. Fantastic Four Annual number 3 remains a significant milestone in the Marvel Comics history. Primarily due to the highly anticipated wedding, this issue went beyond a simple wedding narrative, becoming a pivotal moment that showcased the interconnectedness of the Marvel Universe. The event drew an unprecedented gathering of Marvel's heroes, including the X-Men, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Daredevil, and numerous others, establishing a precedent for large-scale crossovers and team-ups that have become a hallmark of Marvel storytelling. Jack Kirby's dynamic artwork effectively captured the epic scale of the event, illustrating the clash between heroes and villains amidst the urban chaos of New York City. This issue wasn't solely a showcase for the heroes. It also featured a substantial collection of Marvel's iconic villains, including Doctor Doom, Mole Man, the Red Ghost, the Mandarin, Kang the Conqueror, the Super Skrull, and many more. Beyond the sheer number of characters, the wedding served to solidify the Fantastic Four's position, the cornerstone of the Marvel Universe, emphasizing their role as a family unit and a symbol of heroism. The convergence of so many significant characters within a single issue contributes to its enduring appeal and its status as a landmark comic. The Kree-Skrull War stands as a landmark story arc in Marvel Comics. Created by Roy Thomas with art from Sal Buscema, Neil Adams, and John Buscema. Originally published in Avengers issues 89 through 97, this narrative went beyond the typical superhero conflicts, presenting a cosmic-scale interstellar war. The story begins with the Kree hero Captain Marvel returning to Earth, being captured by Avengers Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and the Vision, along with Rick Jones. This capture is crucial as Mar-Vell is suffering from lethal radiation absorbed in the negative zone. Flashbacks reveal Marvel's prior encounter with the Nihilist and his subsequent escape, leading to his capture by Kree Sentry. The Avengers are then drawn into a mystery involving a research base in the Arctic where they encounter a hypnotized Goliath and Ronan the Accuser, who aims to devolve the Earth. Conflict escalates as Marvel's existence is revealed to the public, leading to the formation of the Alien Activities Commission and escalating tensions between the Avengers and the authorities. Simultaneously, Skrulls infiltrate Earth, capturing Mar-Vell and other Avengers. The remaining Avengers uncover the Skrull deception, embark on a rescue mission leading them to Attilan, and the alliance between Maximus and the Kree. The narrative culminates in a cosmic confrontation in Skrull space, where Mar-Vell is forced to build an Omniwave projector. With Rick Jones's Destiny Force, the Avengers and the Golden Age heroes turn the tide, ending the war and exposing a Skrull infiltrator on Earth. This storyline was notable for its expansive scope, featuring an enormous cast of characters. It used the Skrulls as a metaphor for how people were worried about spies and the enemy within. It also touched on the big political stuff too. The whole thing was more than just a space fight. It was like a mirror to what was happening in the real world at the time. The arc also introduced the pivotal romance between Vision and Scarlet Witch, a theme that would resonate through Avengers history. The Kree-Skrull War is considered a high point of its era and the culmination of Thomas and Adams' collaborative work. The night Gwen Stacy died, also sometimes called the Green Goblin's Last Stand, is a huge moment in Spider-Man and Marvel history. It's a two-parter from Amazing Spider-Man number 121 and 122, back in 1973. Jerry Conway wrote it, and Gil Kane, John Romita Sr., and Tony Monterello did the art. The story goes like this. Norman Osborn, who was the Green Goblin, had amnesia and forgot he was the villain and that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. But then his son Harry's drug addiction and financial troubles triggered a breakdown, and he remembered everything. Goblin grabs Gwen and lures Spider-Man to a bridge. They fight, and the Goblin throws Gwen off. Spider-Man tries to save her with his webbing, but she ends up dying. There's debate about whether she died from the fall itself or the whiplash from the webbing, but either way, Spider-Man blames himself. The Goblin gets away, but Spider-Man tracks him down and beats him up. He can't bring himself to kill him though, and the Goblin tries to impale him with his glider. Spider-Man dodges, and the glider kills Norman Osborn instead. Peter's devastated, and Mary Jane, who was also close to Gwen, comforts him. This story shocked everyone. Now, back then, killing off a major character like a superhero's girlfriend was pretty much unheard of. That's why this story is considered such a big deal. It is said to have marked the end of Silver Age comics and the start of the Bronze Age, which is a time when comics started to deal with more mature themes. Gwen's death had a massive impact on Marvel and comics in general. It led to more focus on characters like Luke Cage and Mary Jane Watson, creation of the Punisher, and it solidified the Green Goblin, Spider-Man's ultimate nemesis, especially in other media. Killing off Gwen was a huge deal, and it really changed the tone of comics. It even led to the term the Gwen Stacy syndrome, which refers to the tendency for superhero girlfriends to meet tragic ends. And in a Marvel fan poll, these two issues were voted among the greatest of Marvel comics of all time. Back in 1973, after Roy Thomas created the Defenders, Marvel's editor-in-chief was swamped and passed the reins to Steve Englehart, who was already writing the Avengers at the time. To celebrate the Avengers' 10th anniversary, Englehart decided to do a big crossover, mirroring the original Avengers issue with Loki causing trouble. That's how we got the Avengers Defenders War, an 8-issue crossover written by Steve Englehart with art by Bob Brown, Mike Esposito, and Frank Giacomo, spanning Avengers number 115 to 118 and Defenders 8 through 11. Started with the Enchantress turning Black Knight into stone. So, the Defenders, Doctor Strange, Hulk, Namor, Silver Surfer, Valkyrie, and Hawkeye, who just left the Avengers, tried to help. Doctor Strange tried to talk to the Knight's soul, but Loki and Dormammu messed with the message, sending the Defenders to find pieces of the evil eye. Dormammu wanted it to merge Earth with his dark dimension, while Loki, worried about Asgard, told the Avengers, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, Vision, Scarlet Witch, Black Panther, Mantis, and the Sword to stop the Defenders. Misunderstandings led to fights between the teams. They split up and had individual battles, like Silver Surfer versus Scarlet Witch and Vision, Hawkeye versus Iron Man, and Doctor Strange versus Mantis and Black Panther. Hulk and Thor even fought, ending in a tie. Eventually, Cap and Namor realized they were being manipulated, but Dormammu had already gotten at the evil eye and started merging dimensions. Things looked dire when all but the Scarlet Witch was taken out. Then Loki, in a classic double cross, betrays Dormammu, and it was Scarlet Witch using her reality warping powers along with the evil eye who really turned the tide. She managed to disrupt both Dormammu and Loki's plans, ending the war. This crossover was important because it showed how connected the Marvel Universe was, proving that different characters and teams could have big, impactful stories together. Thanos War in 1973 was Jim Starlin's first big debut with Thanos. It throws Captain Marvel and the Avengers into a massive cosmic showdown. This story took place mostly in the Captain Marvel comics, issues 25 through 33, with some side trips to Marvel feature number 12 and Avengers number 125. The whole thing kicks off with the murder, Rick Jones getting double-crossed and him swapping places with Captain Marvel. This leads to Skrull imposters, the Super Skrull, and eventually Thanos, who's after the cosmic. Thanos pulls a lot of strings, using Rick's memories and even fighting Drax the Destroyer. Meanwhile, Captain Marvel goes on a wild spiritual journey with Eon, getting cosmic awareness and facing his fears. The Avengers get dragged into it, dealing with the Controller and the Blood Brothers. Thanos grabs the cube's power, basically becoming one with the universe. We also get to see Drax and Moondragon's backstories, which tie them directly to Thanos. The Avengers try a space assault to mess with Thanos' plans. Then comes the big finale. Captain Marvel, with Eon's help, and Mantis, who can dodge Thanos' time tricks, confront him. Captain Marvel, realizing what the cube really is, shatters it, wiping Thanos out. The Avengers get back to normal and Captain Marvel's youth is restored. This story is a solid piece of work. Starlin gives everyone a chance to shine, especially Marvel and Rick Jones. The cosmic stuff like Marvel's awareness and Thanos becoming the universe is pretty cool too. And Starlin's art? It's amazing. The cosmic scenes are gorgeous and the layouts are creative, and it's really just fun to look at. Even though others are credited as writers, it's Starlin's ideas that really drive this art. It's a great read, especially if you're curious about Thanos' early days. So, also back in 1973, Gary Conway, the writer of Spider-Man, decided to shake things up big time. They killed off Gwen Stacy, like we talked about earlier, Peter Parker's girlfriend, in issue 121. The reason they did this was the editors felt she had gotten a bit stale, and they wanted to crank up the drama in Peter's life. But Conway didn't stop there. In the stories that followed, he introduced the Jackal. And guess what? Gwen Stacy seemed to come back from the dead. Turns out the Jackal was Miles Warren, Gwen and Peter's biology professor. He was obsessed with Gwen, and her death messed him up big time. Being a cloning expert, he made clones of both Gwen and Peter, which is how he found out Peter was Spider-Man. He blamed Spider-Man for Gwen's death and wanted revenge. Jackal kidnaps Spider-Man and forces him to fight his clone. Both Peters thought they were the real deal. Eventually they teamed up, then boom, an explosion seemingly kills one of them and the Jackal. The surviving Spider-Man figured he was the original because he was in love with Mary Jane, which only happened after the clone was made. He dumped the clone's body in an incinerator, and Gwen's clone just vanished to start a new life. This happened in Spider-Man issue 149, and it left it kind of vague. Who actually died in the explosion? Was it the real Peter, or was it the clone? Conway said it was unintentional. He just assumed Marvel would never replace the real Spider-Man with a clone. It was a pretty wild ride, and definitely a memorable chapter in Spider-Man's history. This era had become known as the original Clone Saga, mostly because it was the starting point for one of the most controversial events that happened during the 90s, Clone Saga. We'll talk about that one when we get to it a little bit later. Dark Phoenix Saga is a cornerstone of X-Men storytelling, crafted by Chris Claremont and John Byrne. This arc, primarily featured in Uncanny X-Men issues 129 through 138, delves into Jean Grey's transformation by the Phoenix Force, exploring her descent into corruption and her ultimate sacrifice. This narrative is widely regarded as a classic within mainstream superhero comics, introducing pivotal characters such as Kitty Pryde, Dazzler, and Emma Frost. Jean Grey's exposure to solar radiation in space unlocks her latent potential, leading to her transformation into the Phoenix. She repairs the M-Cron crystal, but attempts to regulate her newfound abilities. Mastermind, seeking acceptance within the Hellfire Club's inner circle, manipulates Jean Grey through illusions and Emma Frost's technology. This psychological manipulation causes Jean Grey to identify with the Black Queen persona, leading to her corruption and the capture of the X-Men. During a psychic duel between Cyclops and Mastermind, Jean's inhibitions are shattered, and she becomes the Dark Phoenix. In her transformed state, Jean departs for space, only to discover her powers are not limitless, draining a star to replenish her energy. She inadvertently destroys an inhabited planet, prompting the Shi'ar Empire to intervene. They consider the Dark Phoenix a cosmic threat akin to Galactus. Returning to Earth, Jean confronts her dual nature, torn between her human emotions and her Dark Phoenix impulses. Following an unsuccessful confrontation with the X-Men, Charles Xavier engages her in a psychic battle, restoring her original Marvel Girl powers. Shi'ar, deeming the Dark Phoenix a threat, abduct the X-Men and demand her execution. Xavier invokes a Shi'ar duel, lending to a battle on the moon between the X-Men and the Imperial Guard. As the battle progresses, Jean once again transforms into the Dark Phoenix. Faced with Lilandra's attempt to destroy the solar system, Jean, with the aid of the X-Men, regains control and chooses to sacrifice herself using an ancient Kree weapon. The narrative concludes with Uatu the Watcher's observation that Jean Grey, despite her potential for godhood, chose to die as a human. Dark Phoenix Saga is universally acknowledged as a masterpiece, resonating deeply with both critics and fans. It is consistently ranked among the top Marvel storylines, celebrated for its impactful artwork, compelling narrative that has profoundly influenced numerous creators. This story is often cited as the defining moment in the X-Men's history, showcasing the team at their best, solidifying its place as a legendary tale in the superhero genre. Days of Future Past is a classic X-Men story from 1981, specifically in X-Men issues 141 and 142. Basically a time travel story set in a really messed up future. Imagine a world where mutants are hunted down and thrown into internment camps, and giant robots called Sentinels rule America. That's the future they're dealing with. The story flips between 1980 and 2013. In the future, things are bleak. Sentinels have taken over, and mutants are living in a nightmare. With nuclear war looming, the few remaining X-Men make a desperate move. They send the mind of an adult Kate Pryde, who we know as Kitty Pryde, back in time to her younger self in 1980. The mission: stop a crucial event that sets this whole dystopian future in motion. That pivotal event is the assassination of Senator Robert Kelly, along with Charles Xavier and Moira McTaggart, Mystique's Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Future Kitty is now in her younger body, teams up with the present-day X-Men to prevent this. They succeed, and Future Kitty's mind is pulled back to her time, leaving young Kitty with no memory of what happened. The story ends with the present-day X-Men wondering if they've actually changed the future or just postponed it. We never see the 2013 timeline again in this arc, leaving it a bit of a mystery. It's a pretty heavy story, and it's been revisited a lot in comics and other media. The Days of Future Past two-parter is a high point in comic history for several reasons. Notably, it was one of John Byrne's final stories on the title, and his artwork is just exceptional. Every panel is rich with detail and tells the story flawlessly. Byrne's art, combined with Chris Claremont's strong writing and detailed thought bubbles, effectively created a believable alternate future in just 2 issues. The world building established within the first 5 pages is remarkably efficient, a feat rarely seen today. The story's conclusion was also incredibly impactful, eliminating nearly all the future X-Men, including Wolverine. Seeing Wolverine's burnt adamantium skeleton in 142 was a shocking moment for readers in 1980. Peter Rasputin's emotional response to Ororo's death immediately after Wolverine's remains one of the most powerful scenes in Claremont and Byrne's collaboration. It's also worth noting that fans voted the first issue as one of Marvel's greatest comics, and it's officially designated as Earth 811 in the Marvel multiverse. Marvel Superhero Contest of Champions was a 3-issue limited series Marvel put out in 1982. It's kind of a big deal because it was their first ever limited series. Mark Gruenwald wrote it, and John Romita Jr. and Bob Layton did the art. This series was also significant because it kinda laid the groundwork for future big Marvel events and crossovers. It introduced the idea of a massive story affecting the entire Marvel universe, even before multiple crossovers were a thing. Here's a fun fact. The original plan was to tie this series into the 1980 Summer Olympics in Moscow, with superheroes competing in game. I don't know how that's fair, but that was the idea. But back then, the US boycotted the Olympics, so Marvel had to rework the story. They still released it 2 years later, just without the Olympic connection. Plot's pretty wild. An elder of the universe called the Grand Master challenges Death to a game. He wants to bring back the Collector, who'd been killed by Korvac at this time. They decide to use Earth superheroes as pawns in this cosmic contest. The goal is to collect pieces of something called the Golden Globe of Life. If Grandmaster's team wins, the Collector comes back. If they lose, he stays dead. Grandmaster's team had Captain America, Talisman, Dark Star, Captain Britain, Wolverine, Defensor, Sasquatch, Daredevil, Peregrine, She-Hulk, The Thing, and a guy named Blitzkrieg. While Death's team, Iron Man, Vanguard, Iron Fist, Shamrock, Storm, Arabian Knight, Sabra, Invisible Girl, Angel, Black Panther, Sunfire, and last but not least, well, maybe least, the Collective Man. Even though the story ends in a tie, Grandmaster is considered to have won. But to bring back the Collector, he has to take his place in the realm of the dead. He agrees, later pulls a fast one and tricks Death into making all the Elders immortal. This series also introduced a bunch of international heroes, like Blitzkrieg, Collective Man, Fensor, Peregrine, Shamrock, and Talisman. The same ones that were mentioned before. And each issue had a catalog of all the heroes in it, which basically was a prototype for the popular official handbook of the Marvel Universe. Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, 12-issue crossover limited series published from 1984 to 1985, was a significant event in Marvel Comics history. Written by Jim Shooter with art by Mike Zeck and Bob Lee. The series was notable for its tie-in with a Mattel toy line and a TSR role-playing game. The series' inception stemmed from Marvel Comics editor-in-chief Jim Shooter, originally titled Cosmic Champions. The series was renamed Secret Wars following feedback from Mattel's focus group. Mattel's involvement extended to the storyline and character design, with adjustments made to enhance toy sales. Shooter asserted his exclusive ability to write the series. While the main narrative unfolded across the main 12 issues, there were numerous tie-in titles, including The Amazing Spider-Man, The Avengers, Captain America, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, The Thing, Fantastic Four, Marvel Team-Up, The Uncanny X-Men, and Thor. Plot centered on the Beyonder, cosmic entity who transported a selection of Earth's heroes and villains to a constructed planet, Battleworld. He tasked them with engaging in combat, promising the victors their heart's desires. The assembled heroes included Avengers, Fantastic Four members, Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, and the X-Men. Villains consisted of classic adversaries and cosmic entities like Galactus. The series featured numerous conflicts, betrayals, and power struggles. Key developments included Galactus' attempt to consume Battleworld, Doctor Doom's acquisition of the Beyonder's power, and Spider-Man's acquisition of his famous black costume. Upon the character's return to Earth, significant changes occurred within the Marvel Universe. She-Hulk joined the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man's costume was revealed to be an alien symbiote, and Colossus ended his relationship with an underage Kitty Pryde, which is probably a good thing. And the Hulk also experienced a resurgence of his savage nature. Despite initial critical reception being mixed, criticisms regarding its juvenile content, Secret Wars achieved substantial commercial success. Later assessments have acknowledged its lasting impact on the Marvel Universe, with publications like IGN and MTV News recognizing its role in establishing the modern event comic format. The Wraith War in Marvel Comics primarily takes place within the ROM comic series, with the most pivotal issues being ROM number 65 and 66, which depict the climax of the Dire Wraith's invasion and the subsequent aftermath of the war against them. The Dire Wraith saga began with an internal power struggle, as the Witch race eliminated the Scientist Wraiths, establishing sorcery as their primary tactic. This marked the beginning of a conflict that would escalate beyond their internal strife and impact the entire Marvel Universe. They then invaded Earth, starting with the infiltration and subjugation of Claritin, West Virginia. Rom and Starshine intervened, but a Skrull extermination squad arrived, eliminating the immediate Wraith threat. Rom, recognizing the gravity of the situation, went public, prompting the US government to engage in a clandestine war against the Dire Wraiths. The conflict intensified with a devastating attack on the SHIELD helicarrier, resulting in significant casualties. Global terror campaign ensued, with the Dire Wraiths attacking worldwide, massacring towns and villages. They employed diverse tactics, including attempts to sabotage the US space program for their own purposes, attempts to assassinate Forge and destroy his neutralizer technology, and the use of sorcery to mutate humans and wildlife. They also attempted a world merge, creating a sorceress conduit to bring Wraith World to Earth, causing global cataclysms. This plotline, where the Wraiths attempted to bring their home dimension into Earth's solar system, was particularly dramatic and visually striking. The culminating battle occurred in New York City and in space, involving numerous superheroes. Rom, Forge, and a team of astronauts utilized the satellite-based neutralizer to banish Wraith World, reflecting a technological countermeasure to the Wraith's magical abilities. Following the defeat of the Wraiths, the remaining individuals were gathered. After deliberation, Rom, citing his prolonged conflict with the Wraiths, was granted the authority to determine their fate. He subsequently banished them to Limbo, ending a conflict that was known for its dark and unsettling tones, reflecting Cold War paranoia and fears of hidden enemies. It is important to note that the Dire Wraith War was primarily featured in Rom's Space Knight series, which revolved around Rom's conflict with the shape-shifting adversaries. However, due to licensing issues related to the Rom character, Dire Wraith's appearance in the Marvel Universe have been somewhat limited since the series ended, leading to some continuity challenges. And it's kind of disappointing a little bit. I really wish we could see some more stories of the Dire Wraiths. However, the Wraith's War impact on the era's storytelling remains evident. In essence, the Dire Wraith War left a lasting imprint on the Marvel Universe by introducing themes of paranoia, blending genres, reinforcing the shared universe, exploring darker aspects of storytelling. Even with the licensing limitations, its influences can be seen in the continued use of similar tropes and themes in subsequent Marvel comics. Secret Wars 2, a 9-issue limited series and crossover event, was published by Marvel Comics from 1985 to 1986. Written by then Editor-in-Chief Jim Shooter with primary art by Il Milgrom, it served as a direct sequel to the original Secret Wars. This series marked a significant shift in Marvel's approach to crossover events, introducing the concept of extensive tie-ins across numerous Marvel titles. Readers seeking the complete narrative were required to purchase over 30 additional comics, each bearing a designated logo in the corner, kind of like with Nabisco. This was a novel approach at the time, prompting readers to engage with a wide range of titles to follow the central storyline. Jim Shooter initiated the sequel shortly after the commercial success of the first Secret Wars. However, the production encountered challenges, including scripting delays, the replacement of initial artist Sal Buscema with Al Milgrom, and Shooter's extensive involvement in the tie-in scripts, demanding rewrites to align with his interpretation of the Beyonders' narrative. As a personal aside, I must admit that Jim Shooter's writing style outside of the original Secret Wars has not really resonated with me. The series centers on the Beyonders' arrival on Earth, where he embarks on a quest to comprehend human existence. His initial attempts to grasp basic human activities are followed by his entanglement with organized crime and an obsessive interest in technology. Earth's heroes, growing suspicious of his motives, prompt the Beyonder to withdraw. Mephisto attempts to exploit the situation by recruiting supervillains, but their efforts are thwarted by the Thing, who receives augmented strength. The series also clarifies Doctor Doom's presence in the original Secret Wars, revealing that the Beyonder manipulated his personal timeline. The narrative culminates with the heroes preventing the Beyonder from causing planetary destruction, as Mephisto attempts to capitalize on his vulnerability. Critically, Secret Wars 2 received mixed reviews. While commercially successful, it was criticized for its convoluted plot, heavy-handed writing, and an extensive number of tie-in issues required to fully comprehend the story. Nevertheless, it established the precedent, large-scale crossover events in the Marvel Universe, better or for worse. And that brings us to the end of part 1. We covered a lot of ground in this video, from the early days of Marvel crossovers to the mid-80s. But this is only just the beginning. We've got decades of stories to explore here, and I can't wait to dive into more of them with you. In the next part, we'll be picking right where we left off. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these events in the comments down below. Which moments stood out for you the most, and which ones are you looking forward to in the next episode? So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the Marvel Universe. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.